What's up, world? It's time for an oil change on the 2014 Shelby GT500. Now, if you haven't already, please do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and hit that bell notification. And as always, thank you for jumping in for another ride. Okay, really quick, so I've had a couple of questions about my work table here, and just to be transparent, this is actually my parts washer, and I try to keep everything as multitasker as possible inside the shop to keep clutter limited. The wash station actually just gets a piece of toolbox door liner and a cheap big box door cutting board on top of it. And so that way I can kind of multitask with it. It actually works as a worktop, and then I just pull this off of it and open the top up, and I've got my parts washer. So everything is spread out that we're going to need for the oil change. So really quick, we'll just walk through the supplies that you'll need to get this done. And obviously safety's first, so we're going to need wheel chocks. That is an absolute must. Next thing is safety glasses, and really the main reason why I say safety glasses for something like this is mainly for when you're draining the oil, just because the oil does get kind of an acidic compound in it due to an internal combustion engine. So just kind of be safe with that. Keep some safety glasses around. Don't be like me and get brake cleaner in your eye sitting beside the safety glasses. That's just kind of stupid. Next thing, if you have it, this is kind of how I keep my records for all of the vehicles that I have. It's just a really simple, big box door. This one came from Staples, notepad, and I just date and miles and run through and keep detailed records of what I did, part numbers, dates, miles, all that sort of thing. And this is the owner's manual that actually came with the car. All the information will be inside of this. This car actually calls for 8.5 quarts of oil. Now, just to be transparent, the GT500s do kind of fluctuate depending on if you got the track pack or not, or what options you got. And really what that comes down to is, say like if you got the track pack, then you're going to get an extra oil cooler in the lines, and obviously that cooler and those lines will take up some of the capacity for oil. So you're going to need a little more or a little less. So this car actually has the SVT Performance Pack, but it did not get opted with the track pack, and I did that on purpose just because this car really wasn't going to be used for a road race application or endurance racing, anything like that. I knew it was going to be mainly used for just street duty, doing cruises, weekend events, things like that. If it sees really any kind of heavy racing application, it's just going to be drag racing. So just to kind of clarify some of that information with you. Most of this information is going to be applicable to any kind of standard oil change, so you can kind of adapt this to whatever you need to, as long as you have a spin-on style oil filter. So as we keep moving down the list here of items that we're going to need, obviously something to clean up, just cheap white big box door paper towels work fine. The blue shop towels are really much better, and they do put off less lint. Now they are more expensive, but I always try to keep a roll of both around just to wipe up floors, tables, messes with the cheap stuff. And then what I really like to keep the blue towels for is you're going to need a decent funnel, and you can be creative with this. You can actually cut the top out of one of your oil bottles, or you can roll up a like a wax paper cut, something like that. But I like to keep the blue towels to wipe anything that good oil is going to be going through, just because they put off so much less lint. So I think that's kind of important. If you're changing oil, you're putting clean oil in, you want it to be lint free as possible. Moving down the list, obviously you're going to need your good oil. There's so many great brands of oil out there now. Everybody has their preference. It doesn't matter if it's Amsoil or Mobil 1 or Pennzoil has some great stuff out there. Valvoline has some great stuff out there. I have buddies that run nothing but like the race spec Valvoline oil. I've always just been a huge Redline fan, and they've never let me down. So we have 9 quarts of 5W50 Redline, and we're going to need a filter wrench, and this one is obviously really old. I've had this a long time, and to keep moving down the list of old stuff that I have laying around the shop, you're going to need something for the drain plug, and you're going to need a 15 millimeter on the GT500. And just a standard wrench will work fine, or I have this Mac ratchet and socket right here, And obviously this is a 15 millimeter just like the wrench, but this thing is probably like 25, 30 years old. It's never been rebuilt, never been gone through. I just kind of shoot some WD-40 through it every once in a while and keep it clean. Keep it on the theme with clean. This is my absolute favorite cleaner on earth. Chemical Guys, Nonsense. It's non-odor, non-staining. It goes on completely clear. It wipes up completely clear. It leaves no residue behind. I'm not endorsed, sponsored. This channel is not supported in any way directly with Chemical Guys. So this is 100% my opinion. This is the greatest cleaner you can absolutely get for automotive applications. I've even used this on upholstery, carpet, anything like that. So this cleaner is absolutely fantastic to keep around. Gloves. The Thickster are my absolute favorite gloves. And if you're anything like my dad used to be, just the old school guys, their hands would be stained and black and, you know, pretty rough around the edges. But the Thickster gloves are great and they will last a long time. They'll pretty much last, you know, a day of you working on something like this. So good pair of gloves is probably a good idea to keep around. So the Thickster brand is what I like. And obviously along with their oil, we're gonna need a filter. And this is the K&N, and this is HP2010. One of the things that I really like about the K&N filters, they're absolutely one of the best on the market, and I've always felt that way, and I've seen a lot of independent tests. I really thought it was super cool that an episode of Engine Masters on Motor Trend actually covered oil filters, and just as, you know, my information had proven over several years, K&N came out to be one of the best bang for the buck filters that you can possibly buy. They also come with the sticker, and I just kind of stuck this on the top to show you here. And the sticker just has date, mileage, if you want to keep up with it like that. I don't put anything like that on the car just because I normally change the oil a couple of times a year anyway, because it's so low mileage that it doesn't really matter with that. I just do it by time. And also the cool thing about the K&N filters that I really appreciate is they normally come in a cellophane wrapper. Some of them have this kind of a bag cellophane wrapper, and some of them actually have like a sealed piece over the top that you just peel off. If you're buying a filter, you don't want it full of dust, dirt, you know, taking a chance of any kind of debris in it, anything like that. So that is also something that I really like about the K&N filters. And now that we covered all the equipment that we're going to need for the oil change, I'll put a link down in the description below if you want to check out any of this stuff for your own application. Now, full transparency, if you use the link below and you make a purchase for any of the equipment, the channel does receive a small commission for any of the purchases that you make. And we absolutely appreciate any support, and the small commissions that we get goes 100% back into the channel to keep making content so that we can help people out. Now, let's get started on the oil change. One of the things that I wanted to point out on the GT500 is there's going to be a air dam on the front, and it is going to say remove for oil service, and that is absolutely 100% incorrect on the GT500. This is actually the same air dam that is used on the 5-liter V8 Mustangs, and so the filter is actually set on the front driver's side on the 5 liters, so you do not have to remove this on the GT500s. So it's just the same part. That way, you know, Ford can just use the same part interchangeably. So you do not have to remove this. So do not pay attention to this on the GT500. This is a 5-liter only car. On the GT500, the oil pan is aluminum. So you can see that up here. It's just a cast aluminum, and the drain plug is in the very back, and there's only one. So it sits in the very back, and it is a 15 millimeter head. So we'll just go ahead and remove that. Obviously, one thing that we're going to need that wasn't mentioned on the table is a drain pan. So here on the lift, we have this extendable drain pan, and this has actually showed up in some other videos. And so this drain pan is extendable up and down. And as with most standard bolts, just turn the drain plug to the left. so I think that's about all the oil we're going to get out of it. And righty-tighty, lefty-loosey for the drain plug, just like a standard bolt. And most drain plugs are around 25 to 30 foot-pounds, something like that. If you're not very experienced with it, I do suggest using a torque wrench. If you have a little bit of experience and you've done this a few times, you'll kind of get the feel of it. Just a standard wrench or a 3/8 ratchet, and just hand tight is all you need. I've seen so many oil pans with the threads busted off inside that need to be repaired. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're reinstalling that. And onto the oil filter. And one of the things that I run on like everything with a screw-on style oil filter is a filter mag. And I will put a link to these down in the description below. I absolutely recommend these. They're just basically made with rare earth magnets, and they just stick to the side of the oil filter there. So any small metal contaminants that could be trying to pass through the filter, this will catch. But the cool thing about these and the way that they stick to the filters is when you pull the magnet off, everything is just still kind of contained up inside the filter cartridge. So I absolutely recommend these for any type of screw-on filter. I run them on anything that I have with a screw-on filter, and I've had fantastic luck. I've actually cut the filters open, and you can see the silhouette of where the magnet sits up against the filter. So they're absolutely great insurance. And for our filter wrench, I like the ones with the swivel heads on them like this, so you can get up in kind of these tight areas. And again, simple as it gets, just spins to the left. And once it gets started, it should come right out. Try to keep an angle so that you can see everything. Now the filter that's on here is an FL820S, and that is the 5.8 liter Motorcraft filter. And I've only changed the oil in this a few times. And this is the actual filter, the part number that when the car was sold new that it came with. So I just kind of replaced it at that point with the 820 because I had one, and we're going back over to a K&N now. Now once you pull your filter off, always make sure that the O-ring, this rubber O-ring gasket here, is still attached to the filter and it's not stuck up to the surface of the oil adapter. Because if you stack those rubber O-rings up there, you will have a really bad oil leak and it makes one heck of a mess. Plus, if it goes on long enough unnoticed, you will obviously damage the engine. So just make extra sure that you pay attention to that O-ring gasket. And whenever you are prepping your filter to go on, I always suggest to open everything up, check it, make sure it's clean, make sure there's no dents, dings, anything like that in your filter, make sure it's in good shape. And then I like to use the box that the filter came in and actually go ahead and prime the filter with some oil. And the reason for that is when you start the car up for the initial first start, you don't want to start and have to take the time to pump oil through the filter and then make its way into the engine. You actually want the filter to be full of oil as the car starts up. And I always like to take and brush a little bit of oil around this O-ring, and that just helps to, as you spin the filter up against the oil adapter on the bottom of the motor, that the filter O-ring isn't dry and doesn't get wrinkled up or any kind of cuts or nicks in it. And so the filter just goes on opposite of what the other filter come off. I don't know how much you can see of this because I kind of got to have both hands to hold it in place. And it spins on super easy. Once the filter gets all the way up as tight as you can get it hand tight, and once the filter is all the way up as tight as you can get it hand tight, I like to just take the filter wrench and put on the filter And it does not have to be over tight because it does have that O-ring on it that we were talking about. So it has a great seal to it, and just about a quarter to a half a turn, and you are good to go on the filter. And once the filter is all the way up as tight as you can get it hand tight, I like to just take the filter wrench and put on the filter. And this does not have to be over tight because it does have that O-ring on it that we were talking about. So it has a great seal to it, and just about a quarter to a half a turn, and you are good to go on the filter. And last but not least is our filter mag back on it, and it just goes on the side like that, and we are good to let the car down. The hood, the first basic thing that I wanted to point out is most modern vehicles, anything that has to do with the oil is marked in yellow. So your dipstick handle to check the oil level is going to be marked in yellow. The fill cap is going to be marked in yellow, and they normally have the oil specifications marked right on top, like the Shelby here says 5W50. Also, really quick note, much like the filter mag, which is just an extra thing that happens to be on this car that may not be on most standard applications, if you're just kind of following this, you know, for maybe a different application, just to, you know, adapting the procedures and information over, is this car actually has a JLT. The company is now J&L oil separators, and I'm absolutely a believer on late model vehicles for oil separators. The thing that I really like about this oil separators is it uses all factory forward connections. So you just pull this lever and the connections come right up, and you can spin the canister off and check the oil level in it and empty it. So as we open the canister, we'll see if there's any oil in it. And you can see that obviously with very few miles, there is not a lot of oil in there. But we'll just go ahead and pour it out and wipe it out anyway. See that the oil separator has this filter here, and kind of the way this works is any of the residual oil vapors that comes up into the valve cover, comes through this tube, comes through this screen, and through that screen the oil vapor is turned back into a liquid. It drips down to the canister, and the air continues on, and it's cycled back into the engine for emissions control. So all that oil vapor that turns to liquid is not inside the intake of the motor. We've got about 8.25 quarts of oil in the car here, and the 5.8 liter Trinity motor, and we are just over the full mark. So we're going to jump in, we're going to start the car up, we're going to let it run about probably about a minute and a half, something like that. Then we'll kill it, we'll let all the oil drain back down into the oil pan, and after a few minutes, once we let all the oil drain back down into the oil pan, we will check the level again and make sure we're good to go. Okay, so while we are waiting on the oil to circulate and get moving throughout the engine so that we can make sure that we are completely topped off on the full level, we're going to go ahead and reset the oil life setting. And to do that, it's super simple on this car. On the dash readout, using the steering wheel control pad, we are going to go over to the left. We're going to go down to settings, and we're going to go to the right to settings. And the first option is vehicles. We're going to go to the right again in vehicles. We're going to go down to oil life reset. We're going to go to the right again, and we're going to say set to 100. So we're going to push the OK button, and we're going to hold it. while life's set to 100%. So reset. So then to get back out, we just go to the left on the control pad, and we can go back up to gauge mode, and we can go back over, and there's our gauges to monitor the functions. Now that the engine has ran and come up to temperature just slightly, we're going to go ahead and kill it and let the oil run back down to the oil pan. Okay, so we wrapped up. We was down about a quarter of a quart, so we went ahead and topped that off after the oil ran down, and we checked it, and it worked out great. So we were exactly at the 8.5 quarts, just as the SVT manual states. So yeah, that worked out great. If you have any questions, please do me a favor. Leave a comment down below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I absolutely love interacting with the YouTube audience. As always, please do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button, and hit that bell notification. Man, all the support really means a whole lot to us. All the products that were used today, you will find a link down in the description below. Again, if you use that link and you make a purchase of a product, the channel does receive a small commission, and that commission does go directly back to continue making more content for the channel. We absolutely appreciate all the support and all the acknowledgement that we received over the last 6 months or so. It's really been an honor to keep doing this for everyone. I really hope this helped you out. This is something that's applicable to so many other vehicles besides just the Shelby. It was just what I needed to do an oil change on, and I love hanging out in my shop and doing this sort of stuff, and I love sharing it with you. So as always, really appreciate you, and please do me a favor, as always, jump in for another ride.